Hey, it's Don the Auction Professor here. I'm going to throw a BOLO out here. It's something that a lot of people don't pay much attention to. I've talked about casting and doing actual little metal figures many times in the past. We do casting. Some of these are ones that I've cast and some of these that I've bought in bulk. These are little tiny cast metal. They call them pewter, but these days they're not really made out of a solid pewter because pewter has lead in it, and these are like lead-free figures of it. Maybe bismuth or something along that line. But these do sell, and these are something that I run into a lot. We actually cast our own. I bought a little flat of them here. It's probably about 6 pounds worth of figures. So even at the $10 I paid for this, there's enough where I could just melt this stuff down and sell it if I wanted to. But these type of figures, they're trolls and all kinds of little Warhammer style figures, sell very, very well. And that's what I was going to talk about today, role-playing games, Warhammer, and things along that line. But again, I buy these all the time, little figures in military style. They sell across the board, even just in bulk, even in random oddball figures. I sell these in lots of 7 or 8 for 10 bucks all the time. Usually the lowest I get is about 6 or 7 bucks for about 8 figures. But this is what I got today. I talk about these all the time. I get them all the time. We're going to go over to the screen now, and I'm going to show you the values in some of these items. The role-playing, the Warhammer, and the metal figures in general.
Okay, so we'll start off here. I'm not going to do a huge long video for this today. It's been a real busy day. It's late at night. It's raining outside. Just finished eating dinner. I wanted to at least get this one out here. I just picked up these figures. So, and again, I pick these up a couple times a month, easy, every single month. But Warhammer figures in general are what I look for. I never played the game. I have no idea how it's played. Never even looked into it. I'm back in the day from the 70s and 80s when Dungeons and Dragons just came out, and I've looked for those in the past. Those don't sell as good as the Warhammer ones, though. People mix them up. You'll see Dungeon Quest is another title of the games that you see. There's Warhammer 40K. There's a bunch of different ones of these games. There's hero sets, and HeroScape is a plastic version of these same basic kind of things. We sell HeroScapes all the time. They're similar style looking figures, but the HeroScape are plastic versus the metal. I look for the metal ones first, but again, I'll buy any of them. Just to give you an idea here, type in Warhammer yourself. I'm not going to show you a whole bunch. I'm going to let you guys do some research here and just spend a few minutes. Just spend 5 minutes of your day looking up Warhammer just to see what it is. If you have no idea, you really need to do that. But looking at it here, there's 194,000, almost 195,000 completed listings, and of those, 136,000 of those actually sold. So that's almost, what, 65% of all of the listings that were up actually sold. So that's a high sell-through rate for the area, for the category. Again, I don't worry about sell-through rate for my store, but when I'm researching items, I want an item that has a good sell-through rate. That's what I look for when I buy items, or a huge profit margin. The profit margin is the biggest issue, and how quickly they sell. But if you don't know the sell-through rate for a category, there's no real way to tell how quickly your item may sell unless there's a ton of comps and it's very obvious. But for those of you who don't know, that is how this works too. But just looking at the Warhammer, we'll just look at some of the closed ones here. Just to give you an idea, here's, 80,000, 50,000, 44,000, 30,000. This one goes up to 30. This was some kind of bulk purchase here. This one's $10,000. People pay this kind of stuff for even completed sets. Now, here's one that somebody put together and painted it. It's probably, they spent a lot of time painting this professionally and quality-wise. They got $3,600. Here's another one. This is just a smaller set. Mech Army. Here, $2,700. This one went between 27 and 24. Here's another set, Massive Dark Elder Army. Now, I've seen these even on Craigslist before, so just an FYI. Just like the bunch you see today, I do run into these occasionally. I don't go to too many sales unless they're on my way home or I'm driving by one and it looks good. It's the only time I really go. I've only been by half a dozen or so garage sales or anything like that this year. But as you see, just take a look at these prices here across the board. These are just for some small groups of figures, just like the ones I just showed you. Some of these are bigger than that, some are smaller. There's bases you can glue all those figures to match this setup here. I've got a box of the bases that I was lucky enough to find. Now, some people will actually buy these and, you know, unpainted, and actually put together sets themselves and paint the complete set, and then be able to make a profit on their investment in the time and what they bought by selling them as a complete painted set. There's a lot of people who don't like to spend the time to paint and put these things together, so that's why this can work too. There's a couple other ones, Forge World, Elf World. There's a bunch of these kind of games. I look for any of these small metal figures for anything, Elf Quest, whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter to me. If you can't tell the difference, I almost always just put Warhammer in the title. There's a ton of different things like this, though. And there's different versions of Warhammer. But there's tons of these up here, and even single individual figures sometimes sell. I just passed one here. This is $1,000. I mean, it just depends on what it is. Now, some of these are new items, some of these are you know, oddball items, but in general, most everything I get in Warhammer, you're talking 3, 4, 5, 6, 700% return on your investment easily. These just turn around really, really quickly. And I mean, there's just so many other ones of this. Forge World, if you type in and put in Forge and with this too, you're going to get different results. There's just a ton of different varieties of these. Now, I run into the vintage ones too. The vintage ones do not sell as well as this. Now, I'll give you an example on a vintage one. Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons miniature figures. Now, these I look for. This is what I usually looked for in the past. I never had a clue on what Warhammer was a few years ago. But as I found more and more of these, I started, you know, digging into them, and then luckily I found some listings that listed similar terminology, so I was able to determine what Warcraft was. And they come in all kinds of different versions. As you see here, there's a ton of this stuff up even for Dungeons and Dragons. There's vintage Dungeons and Dragons. Star Wars made the RPG role-playing games with little miniature lead figures. Well, not lead, I keep saying lead, but with little miniature metal figures. Now, all of those sell. There's Star Trek ones. There's Dungeons and Dragons, Warcraft. The list of stuff of those are incredible. There's even James Bond metal figures. Whatever you could possibly think of, there's a ton of these out there. Now, they all aren't, you know, huge money makers, but usually you can get these dirt cheap from, you know, sales and auctions and, you know, just anywhere. I've even bought these at Savers before they closed down around here, or Goodwill. Once in a while I'll find them on a rack back there in the back. But this is just going to give you some, you know, quick ideas on things that I always look for. Now, there's some other items in here that are from the toy line. Dungeons and Dragons had some actual action figures, which I've had before. They're like 3 3/4 inch tall. You know, like a Star Wars action figure, but they made action figures for many of their toy lines from the 70s and 80s, and we see those, and I buy those sometimes in bulk, and mostly it's just a few figures here and there, but those show up too. There's dragons like this size that are vintage. These are new ones, but I mean, there are a ton of different Dungeons and Dragons things. But again, this just gives you an idea of the kind of stuff they have. Now, here's different terminology here. You see Realm, Waterdeep, Dragon Heist. There's a ton of things. I usually put the word Forge, I usually put the word Warhammer or D&D all together in the title if I'm not sure what it is, but these things always sell. Again, I really recommend you, if you want to know a new area that you're going to run into, or you've probably even seen already. Now, I even run into these on clearance sale, sometimes at the mall, like at the hobby stores or, you know, the toy stores in the mall. Even sometimes you can get some decent figures from GameStop if you're lucky enough. Some of the ones they had in the back are at the end of the year clearance sale. And that's where we find some of these as well, too, when we're at the mall just shopping or something. But again, you can even find these at, you know, closeout sales and across the board. They show up in a lot of places. It's not just places that sell just specifically gaming stuff, but again, toy stores and secondhand stores and, you know, just across the board. I even run into these at antique malls, flea markets. Again, they show up at a lot of places. So just something else to look for. There's a high profit margin on these, and I've showed many of these figures, you know, left and right selling. We sell 1 or so packs of 8 to 10 of these figures every single day of the week when we list a bunch. And we've sold, I think, 16 or 17 different sets of these in the last 2 weeks now. So again, that's a pretty good thing. If you multiply that by the $7.99, I think, average price we got out of those, it's a pretty good return on our investment for what little we had into those figures. And again, I've got almost nothing into the box that I just got, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of figures there. Probably 600-700 figures in the box that I showed you. So again, that's what I have for you today. Again, I do honestly recommend you doing some research on your own and just take 5 minutes out of your day and look up those, do some keyword search, and look at the comps for these items.
Well, there you go. That kind of gives you an idea. There's at least $150 back out of this if I split them up into lots. I would never dump one of these in a big lot, all at once on eBay. You're going to get way less than you should. You're going to zoom in and get some better images of a little group of these and things like that. That will sell these quicker. Again, that's what I have for you today. Hopefully that gives you some ideas, some thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon up top to be notified when we post new videos or go live. Subscribe and tell a friend.